Hey, how's it going, folks? Today I wanted to talk about making a GET request on the Mist dashboard. It's going to be a more of an introductory video. Nothing too riveting that's be coming out of here, but I wanted to talk about the things I think a lot of people overlook, and also use this as like a seed or a starter of a series where we can go a little deeper into doing post and put requests, um, utilizing these API requests into Python scripts, and also integrating it with different applications that we use within the enterprise. I think this would be a good like kind of placeholder and kind of starter kit that we can start from this video and then move forward. So what we're looking at right now is my home lab. There's not much interesting in here. I got a couple APs and a switch, and I believe I SSR online as well. What I wanted to do is dive more into the URL of this web page, and within my dashboard, because I get a lot of questions on it. I kind of wanted to get that foundation so we can move forward with it. So if we look at my URL, let me get my little marker out here. You can see this first part, which is manage.mist.com. This is going to be your cloud instance. It's going to be important if you have sites in a different instance like GCP or Global 3, which I have managed at ac2.mist.com. And I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Hopefully I can spell, but essentially this is your cloud instance. And it's going to be important on how you lay out the beginning of your API request. Next part is going to be your org ID. I think this is the easiest part to get out, because it essentially says org underscore ID equals, and from here is going to be the actual org ID, right? That's very easy to get out. And essentially, after this forward slash, you can see 9 ends at 0. This is going to be my actual site ID. I get a lot of questions on this because when we go to the API documentation, which I'll show you how to get there, but you'll see that some API requests need an org ID, site ID. A lot of people get tripped up if they're on a different cloud instance than like manage.mist.com, because it's going to request that's going to be api.mist.com, and you still have to put in your cloud instance in between the api.mist, same as you would in the URL, right? So with that, let me get out of this marker and let me click onto this one device, because there is another part. Because there's going to be the cloud instance, which is important, org ID, the site ID, which I've already explained, and some of the API requests is going to require you to input a device ID. So I clicked on workroom. This is AP43 that's sitting right behind me, and let me bring to note this. Okay, so I just changed my cursor, and I just wanted to call out something. My MAC address, so A2 23 16 80 2D AA, right? So another important thing a lot of people overlook, within the site ID, if I give my markers back, you are going to see this is the actual device ID. And if you can see at the very end that there is going to be the MAC address, the base MAC address of the access point for this example. It's similar for switches, but that we would have to look at as well, which we can. Let me look at one of my switches. A lot of these are base, and as you can see, this is basically the MAC address. And if we look at here, MAC address, so very similar. Double check when you're playing with actual device IDs, or you can make a request that's going to be pulling them out. You can make an API request to call out all your device IDs and then iterate through it. That is going to be part of a future series, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But the next part I wanted to get into is how to get to the API documentation. If you click on this question mark, and you can go to API documentation, click on API documentation. This will showcase all the API requests that you can make for within the overview, authentication, site, organization, and MSP view, right? So very useful. You probably spend a lot of time on it because this will provide you a lot more of the This will provide you with a lot of explanations of what the API request wants within the request URL, or within the body if you're doing put requests or things of the sort, or you're doing get requests for something specific. So another way that you could tackle this if you don't want to go to the API documentation is going into, if you have Chrome, more tools, click on the little three dots on the right hand corner and go within developer tools. And if we hit the Command R to reload the page, we can see all the API requests that are being made to get this web page up. So be mindful that everything that you click on within the Mist dashboard is an API call, which you can see that within here, this is how we're pulling the devices, a get call within my specific site, field names, and yeah, everything is a call that we're essentially making to bring up this web page. So let's go back to the API documentation. I want to go more into device, since we're looking at my device list. And if I want, I can do Control F, go to devices, and there should be, well, let's delete one of the S's and click on device. It take me to all the API calls I can make to a particular device, right? And what I wanted to hold in right here is this get site devices. So if we highlight this, and let me hide my cursor because I feel like it's going to be getting in the way. So if we highlight this and we understand that the main part of this is going to be get within Postman, and this is going to be the rest of the URL, right? So I already have this pre-staged HTTPS ://api.mist.com. I can copy this in, paste this in, and this is the majority of my request. I'm going to delete this question name equals AP -001 just because I don't have the AP at that name, and I want to pull all the devices or all the access points that I have. And as you can see, requested resource was not found on this server. So our first problem is we're going to have to get the site ID. So :site_ID. As I was explaining earlier, we can go into my specific dashboard and get it from the URL, which if I go right here, highlight this out, copy this, and let's just remove this piece out, and I can paste this in, right? I can make the get request right here. And again, authentication credentials were not provided. So how I'm making this call is if you go to authorization, and if you click on type, and then go API key, and then the key is going to be authorization, and then within here we're going to need a value, right? So we can create our API key by going to organization, settings, and let's remove this out right here. And then within the API token, let's create a token. So as you can see, I have 2 tokens already in there. So let's do YouTube demo. I only have one site, so let's do all sites, and a super user because I own it. Let's generate it. Now let's copy it. So once you copy it, make sure to keep it in a safe place, or you're going to be constantly creating these keys. As you can see, I have rich key and rich key 2. I forgot where I placed the key. You can store it within Postman. You can store it somewhere else. But basically, you can't retrieve it after you've already generated it. As you can see from here, I can't get it out. So I already copied it out. Let's go back to Postman. The value is going to be token, and then we're gonna have to put our token API key in here. So let's just paste that in, and then we hit enter, and we're good. And then we're gonna add this to the header, so that should be fine. And let's actually send a request. And it looks like we actually got a response. So our request URL is good. Note the only thing we already changed was the site ID, and just change this for all the devices. We went into authorization, type, API key, and added the value. We had to add the token, and we had to add the API key within it that we generated from the organization settings page, which we can change for specific users if you only want to touch a specific site, so you don't authorize to touch other sites, or you could make them into a super user like how I did for all the sites. And if I scroll down into here, you can see that one of my AP's name is Workroom, as I showcased earlier, and it's AP 43. And then I have another access point called Living Room, and it's AP 45. So this is one thing. This is just a data dump, right? It's being prettified, and I think in future videos what I want to showcase is how can I get into this JSON data, and how we can actually make this into variables or iterate through this to do specific things. Another thing I want to talk about and why I mentioned a cloud instance is I have one of my buddies. He's on Global 3, as you can see, manage.ac2.mist.com. The API request URL is going to look a little different. So I just wanted to showcase this. So like if you're on global, like Google Cloud, or on a different instance, a cloud instance than these two, that you're not confused, or if it's not working for you, right? So I already had this pre-stage, but as you can see, the difference is it's going to be API.ac2, which is global 3, .mist.com, right? You're going to have to add this in, or it's not going to work. As you can see, my home lab request URL, I just had api.mist.com since it's on global 1. His is going to be on AC2. So I'm just reiterating that. And as you can see, I made the request, and one of his AP's name is miss_wap1 lab, although there's no underscore. So that should be everything for how to make a GET request for within the Mist dashboard. So I appreciate your time, and hope you have a good rest of your day.